I feel like such a princess, and you know what I should do? I should make a small one for my cat. Hello, and welcome back to another crochet tutorial. Welcome back to another crochet tutorial. In this tutorial, I'll be showing you how to crochet a really simple and easy to make crochet crown. I really like this project. It works with, or not works with, but like it calls for chunky yarn because that's the way that we get like the points of the crown to be more sturdy. If you use thinner and thinner yarn, they're going to be more flimsy. So it calls for chunky yarn, which means that it takes way shorter than many other crochet projects. I feel like it's the perfect gift to give for any big occasions. It's a perfect crown for any costume or a crown to wear on your birthday or something. I'm just using a traditional like goldish yarn color, but you can use whatever color you want so that it fits you on your birthday or for whatever costume you need to make a crown for. I'm going to be using this big twist in the color Mellow. But also, I'm not really sure why this one is called Mellow, but then they also had another one called Mellow that didn't have this like shininess. It's a size 6 super bulky yarn, and it calls for a 9mm crochet hook, which I'm just finding out now because I used an 8mm crochet hook. So it calls for 9mm, but I'm going to use an 8mm crochet hook since I already did that yesterday and it turned out pretty good. Also, I just feel like that tighter tension in the project will help it be more sturdy. So get your yarn, get your crochet hook, and then don't forget your scissors as well, and your yarn needle for weaving in the ends at the very end of the project. So once we have our supplies ready, we're going to start off by making a chain that fits around the perimeter of your head. Don't make it fit like the biggest part of your head, otherwise the crown is going to completely fall over your head. So kind of just measure around where you want your crown to sit. Also make sure that the chain number is a multiple of 5. I did 55 chains yesterday, but that ended up being just a little bit too big, so I'm going to try 50 today, which might be too small, but I guess we'll see. So start off by making a slip knot and then chain up however many fits around your head. I'm going to do 50. To make a slip knot, you want to fold the end of your yarn like so, kind of making a backwards C. Put your finger in the yarn with your right hand and then twist it upwards and then kind of pry that hole that you just made open with a few fingers. Grab one of the yarns from the other side and pull it through. And then if you keep pulling, it'll tighten and form this knot. And then we're ready to insert our crochet hook into this part. And then to make a chain, all we do is yarn over and pull through, and that makes one chain. If you lose track of counting your chains, you can just remember that they look like a little V. So we can count this one together. The bottom looks a little confusing just because that's where our knot is, but our first distinct V is right here. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So this is 10 chains. And now I'm just going to chain the rest. And these are my 50 chains. Once we've made that foundation chain, we're going to connect the end of it with the very beginning of it to form a ring. And how we will make a ring is by laying down our chains kind of like so that all the V's are face down. And then when we get to the tail end of it where we started, we're just going to kind of pick it up. And that's where we're going to make a slip stitch into the very first chain. So to make a slip stitch, we will insert our hook into the very first chain that we made. And then make sure you grab the correct yarn, not the tail end, but the working yarn. and then yarn over, and then pull through both loops on the hook. And then before we continue, this is a good point to make sure that our yarn didn't get twisted or anything. So make sure that all the V's are facing outward. And it looks like mine is good. So now that we've joined the foundation chain into a ring, we're going to start making single crochets all around the ring for multiple rows until we reach our desired height. And how we'll begin this row is by chaining up 1. And then our first single crochet is just going to go into this second stitch or second chain from the hook. So not this one, but this one. To make a single crochet, we'll insert our hook into the hole, yarn over, and pull through that hole, yarn over, and then pull through both loops on the hook. And that is one single crochet. I'll show you a few more times in case you're still confused. So insert it into the next chain, yarn over, and then pull through or pull back out through that chain, yarn over, and then pull through both loops on the hook. And once more. So we just went into this hole, which means that this one is going to be our next place to put our hook into. So inside the chain, yarn over and pull out of the chain, yarn over, and then pull through both loops on the hook. And then we'll just continue doing this into every chain that we've made until we reach the end, and I'll show you how to end the row. Here I am at the end of this first row of single crochets. I just have 2 more chains to single crochet into, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. So this is going to be the last chain that we crochet into. I know it's a little confusing to tell where the row starts and stops. You can kind of notice that there's a difference in height from this last chain, and then this is where we began our row. This is our first turning chain, and then that's our first single crochet. So let's do our last single crochet inside this last chain. And then we'll always end our rows by slip stitching into the top of the first single crochet from the same row. So not this turning chain, but right here is the top of our first single crochet. You can see a clear V on top. So insert your hook into under this V, like into both of those, so that when your hook is in it, you should still see that V on top. And then yarn over and then pull through, and then pull through everything else on your hook. That's how you make a slip stitch. And now to make the second row, first we're going to turn our work. The reason why we're turning our work is because if we don't turn our work, then the seam from where like every row begins and ends is going to start to become diagonal. So we don't want that to happen, so that's why I'm turning my work after every row. For this row, it's going to be pretty similar. We just start off with 1 chain just like we did with the last row. And then for this row, it's a little easier to see where our first single crochet will go. It's just going to go right next to where we just made the chain, so right here. So that's the last stitch from the row below. So first single crochet into there. Next single crochet is just the next stitch, and so on. And then so continue making a single crochet into every stitch. I'll meet you back at the end. This one's going to be a little different from the last row just in terms of where we're stopping. So keep single crocheting, and then I'll come back once I'm almost done with this row. Alright, I'm almost done with the second row of single crochets. So the last stitch that we're going to make our single crochet into is the one that looks like it's second to last. So not this one, not this one, but this one. And the reason is because when we started this row, the first single crochet was right next to the turning chain. So we want to make sure that we skip one at the end, otherwise we would be increasing our rows and we don't want to do that. So this upcoming single crochet is my last one. And then we'll just end our row just like how we did it with the last row, which is going to be by slip stitching into the top of the first single crochet that we made in the same row. So right here. And now we finished the second row of single crochets. So every other row that we make is going to be exactly like the row that we just made, and we'll continue making rows of single crochets until we reach our desired height. You shouldn't do too many because in addition to this base of the crown that we're making, we're also going to do the little points at the very end, so make sure you leave room for that. I actually think that I want to stop my height here, but with the last crown that I made, I think I ended up doing 4 rows of single crochets. With this one, I've just done 2 rows of single crochets, and I'm going to stop right there. If you decide that you want to make your crown a little taller than mine though, make sure you just follow the tutorial from this past row that I just made, starting with turning your work, chaining up 1, and then continuing as we did with the last row. And then whenever you're done crocheting all your rows, meet me back right here whenever you're ready to start making the little points on our crown. I just had to frog so much because I started recording and I filmed like 10 minutes worth of the next part of this tutorial and my camera wasn't on, so that's why there's a bunch of weird looking stitches, because I've already crocheted in there and then I had to frog it. So now we're going to start making the points of our crown. And whenever you're finished making the last row of single crochets, you don't need to turn your work or anything. We're just going to start crocheting immediately. So we're going to start off with a double crochet, and how we do that is by yarning over and then insert our hook into the stitch that's 2 stitches down from where our crochet hook is at. If you don't know where your crochet hook is at, just give it a little tug and you can see that it's pulling at this space, which means that this is 1 stitch down and this is 2 stitches down. So we're going to double crochet 2 stitches down. Oh, I forgot to explain it. So yarn over, insert our hook 2 stitches down, yarn over and pull it out of that space. We should have 3 loops on our hook. Yarn over and pull through 2 of those loops, and then yarn over and pull through the last 2. Oops. And that is 1 double crochet. And now we're going to make 2 more double crochets in that same space. So yarn over, insert it into the space, yarn over and pull it out, yarn over and pull through 2, yarn over and pull through 2. And then for the 3rd double crochet, same thing. Yarn over into the hole, yarn over and out, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over and pull through 2. So now we have 3 double crochets, 1, 2, and 3. And then we're going to do 2 chains, which kind of just reinforces the shape of like a point at the top, otherwise it would be more rounded. And then after you do the 2 chains, we're going to make 3 more double crochets in that same hole. So 1, 2, and 3. So you can see it kind of looks like a point, but it's not attached to the base of our crown. And how we will attach it is by making a slip stitch to connect this to this. And we want to slip stitch it 2 stitches down from the center. So this is the center. This is 1 stitch down, and this is 2 stitches down. To slip stitch, if you forgot, is insert your hook into the space, yarn over, and then pull it through every loop on your hook. And we've made our first point. So to start the next point, we're gonna first make a slip stitch into the next stitch right next to where we are. So not into that one, but the next one. And then we kind of just repeat the process. So double crochet into the space that's 2 stitches down. This is where our hook is at. That's 1 stitch down, and this is 2 stitches down. And then do 2 more. Once you have 3 double crochets, chain 2 at the top, and then do 3 double crochets into the same hole. I'm sorry that my crochet hook is so squeaky. I think it's a combination of the hook and the yarn, but mostly the hook. My lesson is don't ever buy plastic crochet hooks. I hate them so much. They're ugly and so squeaky and not really that great to work with. So we're almost done making the second point, but the last step is to make a slip stitch 2 stitches down from the center. This is the center. This is 1 stitch down, and this is 2 stitches down. And now we have 2 little points. So I'll show you one more point, and then I'll let you finish the rest of the crown on your own. So don't forget to do the second slip stitch, which is the beginning of the next point. So there's always going to be like 2 slip stitches next to each other. And now double crochet 2 stitches down. That's 1 stitch down, and that's 2 stitches down. Make 2 more double crochets in that space, and then chain 2, and then make 3 more double crochets in that same space. And then the last step is to slip stitch 2 stitches down from the center. This is the center, this is 1 stitch down, and this is 2 stitches down. And it's starting to look more like a crown. So I'll let you finish the rest of the points on your own. Because we made our foundation chain in multiples of 5, we did that strategically so that hopefully everything lines up and there's no awkward gapping between your first point and your last point. It should end up pretty aligned if you started with a multiple of 5 for your foundation chain. So I'll meet you back at the end. We're almost done with our crown. We just have 1 point left to do, which is going to fill this space here. So I'm just going to do it on camera just so we can finish it off together. So I'm going to do the slip stitch, which starts the point, and then double crochet 2 stitches down. And then twice more. Do 2 chains at the top, and then 3 more double crochets in that same hole. And then lastly, we're going to slip stitch it back to the foundation of our crown, 2 stitches down from the center. And we're almost done. So to finish off the crochet project, we will yarn over and pull through, and then keep pulling, and then cut the rest of the yarn off so that we can have this little knot. Now we just have to weave in our 2 ends and kind of just tidy up everything that we've been making. So I like to make the side that's already inside the inside of the project, meaning that I'm not going to flip anything inside out or anything. I'm just going to weave in the ends through the front to make sure that they're on the back. And the reason I do that is because when we make the points, they're naturally curled outwards, which I prefer instead of, having it this way where they're naturally curled inwards. Of course, I'm going to try to straighten them out and everything, but I'd rather have them go out a little bit than in a little bit because I feel like it looks more like a crown that way. Alright, so this first one is tied on the outside. So first we have to weave it through to be on the other side. And now I'm just going to weave it along some of these stitches. Once I've weaved it through a few, I'm going to weave it the other direction through the same stitches. And then just give the whole project a bit of a tug. That way when we cut the rest of the yarn off, we know that it's not all scrunched up or anything. And then just snip it pretty close to where it's last tucked into. And we're done weaving in the first end. So let's do the second one. Again, it's on the outside, so first I'm going to just weave it through to be on the inside. And then just do the same thing and weave it through a few stitches. And then weave it back the other way. And once you feel like it's secure enough, we'll snip off this end. But as you can see, it's looking pretty flat. One reason is also just because I didn't have much of a foundation part of my crown. I feel like the more you do, the more likely it's not going to be so flat because you're shaping more of a cylinder. I might try to block this, which is like when you kind of pin it on a mat so that everything's all stretched out and secured in place, and then you use water to make sure that it's all set. But for the meantime, I kind of just like to pull at everything, kind of massage the yarn so that it's not so like turned outward. And once you do that and everything looks a little bit more straight and not as floppy, you're ready to try it on. Actually, it's great that I already have one made because I can show you what these two different types of crowns look like. I mean, they're not different types, they just have different base sizes. One of them is bigger than the other one, and then this one's also just smaller on my head, so it sits more on top of my head, whereas the other one sits more around it. You don't have to, but I like to look for where the seams are at and then put that at the back of my head so it's less noticeable. I really like this. I like that it sits more on top of my head. It feels more like a crown. That looks really cute. I love this one. I should find my first crown to show you that one was pretty bad. Hold on. This is the first crown that I made. I made it with yarn that I already had, and it was small yarn, and so it just kind of looks like shit. There's just a lot of things wrong with this one. This is the other crown I made. Compared to this one that I just made, you can clearly see the difference in height. And then this one's also just bigger on me. So they look pretty different. I feel like either one of these could work for different things. Like this one gives off more like top of the top king vibes. And then this one's a bit more like dainty and beautiful, I feel like. I mean, it's not dainty, but you know what I mean? Like this one's like, I'm in charge. And then this one's like, I'm in charge, but I'm humble about it. Well, I really hope you enjoyed this tutorial. I hope it was easy to follow. I try to always make it as easy as I can possibly make it, because I know I like when things are over-explained, so I try to do the same. I feel like such a princess, and you know what I should do? I should make a small one for my cat. Again, I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and thank you for watching. I will see you next time.